If you're anything like me, you're constantly cleaning old parts that you salvage from other trucks or junkyard runs or things like that. I have a ton of rusty, crusty stuff that is perfectly good. It just has that thick layer of corrosion on it. So I've spent many an afternoon wire wheeling, scrubbing, brushing, doing all that, trying to get all that gunk off, and I broke down and purchased some materials for an electrolysis tank. All that is a tank that I'm going to fill with water, put some baking powder in, and run a car charger to. The electricity is going to pull the crust off, or at least that's what it says on the internet. I'm going to give it a shot, and you guys should come check it out with me. It cost me like 20 bucks in parts, and if it saves me some time, then it's a win.
All right, so before we get too carried away with this stuff, let's delve into the science really briefly so you guys understand what we're dealing with, why it works, and really how simple it is. So essentially, we have an electrolyte solution that we're going to make using that washing powder and water. That is where the negative, or the cathode, will be suspended. There will be a negative current coming through that cathode, and there will be a positive current coming from the anode, which will be the rebar around the unit itself. Now here's how the magic works. When you have steel and oxygen present together, or iron and oxygen, that forms rust. When you introduce the electrical current into the piece, you are bringing ions, electrical ions, into the metal. The iron now releases its attraction to the oxygen, letting the oxygen go. So when the oxygen goes, the rust goes. So that's all that's happening. Super simple, small electrical charge, providing ions to the metal, releasing the attraction and bond to the oxygen molecules, leaving it rust-free. That's all there is to it. So it's pretty simple. I get nervous around chemistry and stuff too, but I'm going to set it up for you guys right now so you can see what goes into it, and we'll run a set and we'll see how it does.
So you can see the state of this. It's pretty trashed. But then what's awesome is underneath I've got some DIY 4x spring pack plates. And yeah, look at that coming off there. And you can see it coming off of here. Ugh, this is a nasty mess. So I know this looks like a mess of wires, but it really isn't that big of a deal. So let's just walk through what we have here. I have a computer power supply. This is running off of 110. So this is just plugged into normal household power. And then this whole mess of wires plugs into this 24-pin little circuit board that I got off Amazon. Picked this up for about 12 bucks. And what's nice about this guy is it is going to give me all these power outputs. So I'm going to have -12, +12, +5, and +3.3. Each one will have a ground associated with it that you can run it through to keep it fused. And I obviously also run a fuse in my hot side. But that's going to be pretty cool. I'm going to build this into a little box of some kind, like a wooden box probably, so I can have a little portable shore power 12-volt tester. So let me see if I can get you guys some numbers as to what we're looking at. So this wire right here is one of my grounding wires. So I know they look the same, but this one's inside the tub. So right there. And right there, you see it's 11.6 volts holding steady. And then with this guy, this is a DC clamp meter. Put this into 40 amps. There it is. 2.5 amps or 2.6 amps.
After about 5 hours, this is what I pulled from the murky depths. A little bit of wire wheel, a little bit of flap disc, and this thing is looking brand new again. I know this looks like a lot of work, but it just fell off, and I'm actually just trying to polish it to a gleam to make a point here. Really stoked on how this came out. Very quick, easy, and fun.
Yeah, so needless to say, I had a little bit of project creep. What began with
a car charger has grown to this guy right here, and I'll tell you why. Most of the car chargers on the market now are smart car chargers and not manual. Even the manual one I had some issues with, in the fact that they have load sensing circuits inside them, and if they don't sense there's a load, which there's going to be a very minimal load through the electrolysis tank, they'll turn off. And so that's what I kept running into. The way around that, if you're really cheap and you don't want to buy a power supply, you can hook the power supply, the charger, up to your car battery, and then carefully run the leads from your car battery to the electrolysis tank. Make sure you keep the connections the same polarity that they're supposed to be. But what you're doing then is basically just using the 12-volt battery to power the electrolysis tank and keeping the battery topped off with your charger. It adds to the complexity and it adds to all the stuff that you're carrying with it. So that's why I went with the power supply. The power supply is going to give me a little breakout board that I've linked down below in the Amazon store that is going to give you everything you need. It's going to have a switch to turn it on. It's going to be fused so you're not going to break things. It's going to have the 24-pin connector that plugs straight into the power supply, so you don't have any splicing or cutting or soldering or anything like that. You plug it straight in, and then you're going to have all those terminals that are going to give you this benchtop power supply. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited how it's come out. And we're just going to put it together for you guys right now. I have cleaned up the system from the rat's nest you saw earlier, so I'll give you a quick walkthrough of that. It's right here. This is the power supply. It's just a basic power supply from a computer that my buddy gave me, and I cut off all the superfluous wiring, and I'm left with this going straight into this guy. This is the power supply. So I'm going to have a 12-volt and a 12-volt ground fused, and then when I turn this guy on, you can see I've got power. So this right now is charged. This is some of the stuff that I've been able to do already that has come out fantastic. I mean, these are my DIY 4x easy inches. I mean, look how great these look. These are shackles that were on my truck forever, and they've come out really, really good. Working our way around the tank, you will notice that I've got the copper wiring. And this was just from a piece of Romex, a 5-foot piece of Romex I bought. And so that's going around. I've also got more copper wire. This is actually just welding wire that I wrapped around. So this is connecting all of my anodes together. Here is my cathode. This is the negative. The electrical charge will get hooked up into this. Now it's important to keep all of these pieces from contact with the cathode, because if you have contact with the cathode and anode, then you will get a short and you will pop a fuse. In this case, with the power supply, it just turns off. So that's how things are gonna be. Let's fill it up with water and add the washing powder, and we'll turn it on and see. Water by itself is not a great conductor, believe it or not. So we're gonna add some super washing soda into the mix here. And the ratio is basically something like a half a cup per 5 gallons. This is a 15-gallon roughly tub, so I'm gonna put in 1.5 cups, and this is going to make an electrolyte solution. It's going to add ion to the water. All this is sodium carbonate, so it's just going to add sodium and carbon ions into the water and just make a solution that is a better conductor of electricity. Now obviously we're working with electricity and water and all kinds of crazy stuff, so disclaimer, be careful. This is going to release some fumes, going to release hydrogen gas and things like that in small quantities, but enough that you should not be sticking your head over it consistently, and you shouldn't be doing it in a small dark cellar with no windows or air ventilation. So disclaimer, just be careful. You can verify here that I've got my ground or my cathode hooked up to my negative. I've got my anode hooked up to my positive. Nothing is on right now, and the cathode is hooked up right here, and the anode is hooked up right here. So let's go ahead and turn this on, and there we go. They've been in about 3 hours now, and you can see the dramatic change in the water. There's chunks of, there's chunks of paint and rust just floating around in here. This is so cool. Okay, but let's see how these came out. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Check that guy out now. Brand new, ready to go. This is a really fun afternoon project that is going to enable you to work smarter, not harder, and use science. And it is very, very effective. I'm basically taking old parts and making them look brand new again. I have a bucket of old, rusty parts that I just haven't got around to cleaning because the whole process of wire wheeling and brushing and doing all that to get them clean just hasn't been worth it. But putting them in a tank overnight or a couple hours and getting something like this after 30 seconds worth of work with a brush afterwards is awesome. So I hope you guys dug this. It's a departure from my normal videos, but it's all about truck parts and getting them back up so I can put them on the Suburban. I am going to have a link down below that will have all the parts used. It'll be at my Amazon store. And if you have any questions, just hit me up. Yeah, wasn't too hard, but it's super effective. Merricks Garage.